Hey everybody, Melinda here from JamOutWithMelinda, and I wanted to do a little tutorial about how I put my Jamberry wraps on. I use kind of a combination of methods, and it seems to work really well for me, and I've shared this method with a few other people, and it seems to work well for them also. So let's take a look. First, you need to make sure that you prep your nails well. That is one of the key things that we need to do. And I prefer a spoon scoop type utensil to push my cuticles back. And what you're going to do is you're just going to slide this across your nail and press that cuticle back really well. You don't want any hidden cuticle left on your nail bed. Any cuticle left there will draw oil underneath the wrap and it will cause it to lift. So we want to make sure that we get all of that off. The next thing you're going to do is make sure to wash your hands really well with a degreasing liquid soap such as Dawn. And I like to use a scrub brush and put the Dawn on the scrub brush and scrub really well to make sure I get all in the nooks and crannies, to make sure I get all that oil out. I have a tendency to have oily hands, so I want to make sure and get as much oil off as I can. The next thing you're going to want to do is I like to spray my nails with rubbing alcohol. And you can use an alcohol wipe, or you can use a cotton ball soaked in alcohol. I prefer to spray just because it's easier, and it makes sure and get down into all those nooks and crannies, like I said. So I'm going to spray them down. Dry them off a little bit and let that kind of air dry just a bit. And while I'm doing that, I can choose my nail wrap size. And what you're going to want to do is you want to match the wrap. You want to match the wrap to your fingernail size. And it's really nice. Jamberry has the wraps on a clear backing, so it's really easy to match the size of the wrap to your nail. And you want to choose one that is just slightly smaller than your nail. You want a little gap all the way around the cuticle. You don't want that wrap touching your cuticle at all. Don't be afraid to leave a little gap. At first, it feels like you're going to be able to notice it really badly, but once you get used to it, you don't even notice that it's there at all. And it allows your wraps to last much longer because that oil is not able to get up underneath the wrap. So what you're going to do is take a pair of tweezers and peel up the wrap and cut it in half. And then I like to just grab it on the end of my scissors. And I prefer to do a cold application method or a combination cold application method and lay it just at the back of your nail bed, just in front of the cuticle. And then I like to take my index finger and press just down the center, and then just leave it alone and move on to the next one. Just grab a second one here. And it's going to go on the same way, just at the base of the nail, and then I press down the center. So just the center is pressed down. Once I get all 5 on one hand, I will use my heat source, and you can use any combination. You can use the handy Jamberry heater, which is what I'm going to use. You can use a rice bag method, or you can use a blow dryer. So I'm just going to turn my heater on here and warm this wrap up just a little bit. And once it's warm and pliable, I am going to press down the sides from back to front and center outward. So you want to eliminate any pockets or air bubbles. So just press that down, smooth it down. And I'm going to do that to all 5 nails. I like doing the cold method because the wraps get flimsy when they get heated, and they're much harder to place and get a good placement when they are flopping around. They get really flimsy, and they're just harder. They're just harder to place. And when you do it cold, the adhesive is not heated up, which activates it. So if you make a mistake and you put it down a little off center, it'll come up. You'll be able to pull it up a little bit and adjust that. Whereas if it was hot, you're not going to be able to do that. So the next thing I do is I heat it up really well, and then I like to take my tweezers and grab each corner and pull out and down so that it wraps over the tip of my fingernail, and it gets a nice seal there on the end. So now I would do this to all 5 fingers, and then my preference is to let them cool completely, and while I do that, I move on and do my other hand. So I leave these just exactly how I have them here, and move on and do the other hand, and then I will come back once this hand's done and do the next step, which is to take your manicure scissors or a pair of clippers and clip just along the fingernail, just a tiny bit longer than your nail under there. Use your nail as a guide, and I find it really easy to take the manicure scissors and just trim right along my nail. Bag, and you put your nail inside the bag, and you're going to pull the bag taut and heat it up a little bit. And what that's going to do is it is going to serve 2 purposes. One, it's going to make the heat very even, and it's going to create pressure along the entire nail, and it's also going to pull that tip down over the tip of your nail so that it gets a nice good seal on the end. So I do that to all the nails on that one hand, and then I will move on and do those same steps on the other hand, which allows this hand to completely cool. You don't want to clip or file any wrap that's warm, so you want to let them cool completely before you move on to that next step. So the next step is, once they're cool, you want to hold your file at about a 45, maybe a 60-degree angle, and you want to always go in a downward motion and pull the file along the tip of your nail. And what that's going to do is pull off just a tiny bit of the wrap at the tip of your finger. And it's going to pull that wrap away from the tip of your fingernail a little bit, and that is going to allow the wrap not to get caught on things. So in a downward motion all the way across, make sure you get all the edges, and that little piece will roll off the end, and they are pretty much finished. I like to follow up with a glass file. The glass file is a really fine file, and if you leave the tips rough, like this file that I just used is a pretty coarse file, and it leaves those tips a little bit rough, and the roughness has a tendency to catch on things. So you're much better off to follow up with a really fine file, and it's going to smooth that surface and keep it from catching on things. Just one more way to keep them from lifting. So the last step really is to really get that heat seal. So most of the time I will either use a rice bag to finish off, a few seconds in the microwave, a little pouch of rice, and you can press it directly down on the wrap, and it's a nice combination of the pressure and the heat at the same time, and it tends to create a really good seal. Or you can reheat them with the heater or blow dryer and just use your thumb or a little rubber tool that you can press down with. I can't find mine right now. I don't know what I did with it. But basically, heat and pressure are the key things to get a good seal. So you'll want to heat those up just one last time and make sure and press down all the way around the tips, around the cuticle, and really get some heat and pressure on there to seal them up. Now, one thing to keep in mind, you want to do these when you have the time to not get your hands wet. It's not the end of the world if you do, but it seems to create a much better seal if you wait an hour or two after you apply to get them wet. So you don't want to run straight in and wash your hands or take a shower or anything like that. So I hope this was helpful. And I hope I answered some questions for you about my process. And I'm always available for questions. So thank you for watching.